Hello my fellow gamers and City Skylines fans to this guide on how to fix the problem of low or no demand for RCI. The simplest fix for low or no residential demand is to reduce your sim's unemployment percentage. You do this by making sure you have a lot of open jobs in your industries, commercial or office zones. Your target unemployment percentage should be 8% because only at that point will the game allow more sims to move into your city. You can find out what the current unemployment percentage is by going into the population info view. Now you might start asking me, but how do I zone more commercial industries and offices to get more open jobs if I do not even have any demand for commercial or industry zones? Well, that is exactly what I will explain in more depth during this video. My name is Peter, and if you're new to my channel, I want to welcome you and point you to a whole playlist full of tutorials and guides for City Skylines just like this one. Link is up here on the right and in the description below. Now I'm going to show you and tell you about the other solutions for low or no RCI demand, as well as some not so obvious ones, but I'm also going to explain the causes for this problem so you will have an easier time implementing these solutions and even finding your own. Each RCI bar can be low at times, even all three can be almost non-existent if your city hits a few specific conditions. I have already briefly explained the problem and solution for low residential demand, as this is something I see most players struggle with. Now I will address low or no demand for both commercial and industry, which are heavily intertwined and codependent, as you will soon discover. What you must understand is that in this game, a lot of the simulation is not realistic or driven by real-world rules. This is something a lot of players have a hard time understanding, and it is why they struggle with this game. City Skylines functions by its own rules, and if you understand those rules and apply them to your cities, you cannot fail. First of those rules is that an empty city has only the demand for residential zones for the simple reason that sims want to move into your city so that the game can begin. In this, the game is breaking from reality at step 1, because real people do not move into an empty field in the middle of nowhere with no utilities or services, if they want to live in a civilized manner, that is. Which is something your sims obviously do want, as they do not like not having water, power or garbage collection. Naturally, this is done so you could actually start a city in this game. As soon as your sims move in, they will start expressing needs. Besides the basic ones I just mentioned, they have to work somewhere, earn money and spend it somewhere buying goods. This is where your first demand for industrial zones comes from. Newly moved in sims need a place to work and earn their paycheck. This is directly tied into the employment-unemployment game mechanic, as unemployed sims create a need for jobs and you get a demand for open jobs, which you fill by zoning industrial and later office zones. Now that you have sims which have basic utilities and a job at which they will earn money, they need a place to spend that money. This is why you slowly start seeing a rise in the commercial demand of a new city. Because industrial and commercial zones are linked by production and sale of goods, they each set off a chain of demands. To be profitable, industry buildings have to have somewhere to sell goods, and for commercial buildings to have goods to sell, they have to get deliveries. The demand and subsequent fulfilling of demand for one of these directly causes the increase in the demand for the other. And so, for a sim to spend his paycheck, a building in the commercial zone has to have goods on sale. And for it to have those goods, it needs a delivery from a goods-producing generic industry building. This is something you can see for yourself using the outside connection view, which shows where goods are produced, imported and exported, and they are all marked in purple. The demand triangle of residential for industry and commercial, commercial for industry and residential, and industry for commercial and residential is what keeps a healthy RCI demand system going. So why am I explaining all of this when the point of the video is a fix for low or no demand for RCI? Well, it's for you to be able to understand how you are wrecking this in-game system I just outlined and creating this problem in the first place. As previously explained, an unemployment percentage above 8% will prevent new sims from moving into the city as they have nowhere to work at. And the simplest solution is opening up new workplaces to have more room for new sims to come into your city and work there. But what you are facing are empty demand bars for commercial and industry, and you do not know how to open up more jobs. In most cases, this is caused by the player themselves, as they have zoned too much commercial, industrial or offices and backed the mentioned in-game system out of balance. One hidden thing which is really easy to miss but will ruin your city and your game is the fact that sims can live with much fewer commercial zones in the city than the commercial demand shows. And this is why overbuilding of commercial zones to satisfy an unnecessarily high commercial demand is to blame for knocking the RCI system out of balance, in most cases anyway. Now, since this is not the subject of this video, I will not go more in depth as to why there is more demand for commercial zones than is necessary, and I will leave that for another video. But it is there, and to prevent creating problems for your city, just try to play with this simple rule in mind. Leave the commercial demand bar at 50% at all times. So back to the city you have built before you had learned this. It has an excess of commercial zones, which is about twice as much as the population really needs. This puts a major strain on your city's demand for goods deliveries, diffusing the amount of goods which are produced or imported across a lot more shops than necessary, and preventing those from operating with normal profit margins. Sims do not enter all shops as they have too many of them, and each they enter doesn't actually have enough goods most of the time. This leads directly to low or even no demand for new commercial zones. Now let's look at what is happening to the industrial zones during all of this. They are all busy trying to produce massive quantities of goods and keep failing as there are just too many delivery requests. They order up massive amounts of products from the region or local specialized industry, but the game can handle only so much, and even in this city of Bedrock with a population of 1 million Sims, the actual quantities of products imported are really minimal compared to the number of industrial and commercial zones. This is the reason I had a lot of trouble balancing the RCI in this city, as you can see in my Let's Play episodes while I was building it. Link is up here on the right if you haven't seen it yet. And since these industrial buildings are also not working properly, as they are unable to produce all the needed goods, since the game is unable to supply so many products, locally or from import, they are not operating profitably, cannot upgrade, and start to go abandoned, and you end up losing workplaces. With the loss of workplaces, your unemployment goes up, residential demand goes down, and your overbuilt shops in commercial zones lose even more profit as there are not as many shoppers as before. This is the final straw when it comes to commercial zone demand, as without buyers or suppliers of goods, they cannot operate. This is the point where everything starts to break down and the entire RCI demand flatlines. You can do similar damage to your city's RCI balance by having too many specialized industry buildings and exporting your products outside of the city, depriving the game of vehicles and agents to import enough goods to keep your commercial zones working. Similarly, concentrating on office zones to open new jobs instead of generic or specialized industry forces the game to bring in goods for commercial zones from outside, removing one keystone of commercial demand, and that is providing a place for local generic industry to sell goods at. Since offices and industry share one demand bar, your loss of demand for commercial zones reduces the need for industry to sell them goods, and in turn means you can build fewer offices. Your takeaway from all I have shown and said here should be that the fix for low or no demand is to find out which RCI you have overbuilt and bring it down into balance with other zones. When the balance is restored and each zone starts to influence the other two in the way the game was designed, your RCI demand will once more be optimal and work in its intended cycle. And that cycle goes like this. New Sims move in, more jobs are demanded, more industries build and open up for Sims to work at. Demand for shops is created. New shops open up and let Sims shop for goods they produce in factories, creating more need for industry, which creates more open jobs, which lets new Sims move in. And that is how you fix low or no demand for RCI in your cities. I hope that you have found this video both helpful and enjoyable, so you will not forget to hit that like button below and recommend this video to more fellow city mayors. You can also subscribe and get notified when I make more videos like this and add them to my already considerable number of tutorials and guides, of which some are cards on the screen right now. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!